Okay, today I'm going to talk about ages and birthdays within the NAL. First off, I changed this all to gray, and well, gray looks a little bit ugly actually, but it's probably a little bit easier on some people's eyes. Of course, the outside is still white, and these graphs, well, I could have changed the graphs maybe, but the graphs are still white with blue on them, of course. Other thing, right, so I asked just the general people that, heard what I was saying on Reddit and YouTube, if they thought this was a video that they wanted to see or that I should make, or if it would rub anybody the wrong way. And nobody seemed to think that it was weird for me to make this video or to talk about it. So hopefully none of the pros I talk about in this video didn't want me to talk about their age or whatever. Most of them are publicly listed on Wikipedia. That's where I got most of them. So if some of them are wrong, it could be because they're listed wrong on Wikipedia, and I'll mention the other ones that I had to do a little bit of research to find, and mostly I just went on Twitter and like looked up on what day people were wishing these people a happy birthday, and then so it was usually, I usually found enough information to deduce their age and their birthday and stuff. So, but I'll go over the exceptions. So right, let's just start with what do I have on the screen right now. I'll show the graphs in a second, but this is just this was when I was collecting all the data. So I had the first over here players and their birthdays, and then their age, of course, derived from the birthday, and then the team they're on, just as a way of grouping the thing. So if any of the ages have an asterisk on them, I'm like not 100% sure. These are some of the ones that I had to go on Twitter to check, but then I couldn't 100% find Yaga's birth year. This was his birthday, I guess, but the birth year, I'm fairly sure he's 19. So I don't know why this didn't change, but so putting his birth year at 2002. Super. Most people think he's 19 because of how he looks and the way that he shoots, but he's actually not 19, and I believe he's 31. I'm not 100% sure on that one. I found just one instance of Goddess saying, wish Super happy 29th birthday when in 2019, which would make him 31 now. Jay, I think I found Thomas. I could not figure out the year. I found the day, but he's at least 20, but I think he's like 21 or 22, but I don't know. So I excluded him and also Young Alec because I could not find the day for Young Alec. I'm pretty sure he's 19. I don't know. Maybe he's not 19. I don't know. I think there was I think maybe somebody referenced that or whatever, but I could not find the day. So in all of my charts and stuff, I have excluded Young Alec and Thomas because I could not find their exact birthdays. And that skews things a little bit in a couple places, but I'll mention that. And then like Razor, I'm pretty sure is 20, and right. So I think, and then the rest of them, I guess Chala, I think I also got off Twitter, and I was fairly confident about that one. Right. The rest off Wikipedia. So over here we have pretty much the same information, but I just cleaned it up a little bit, and then I added their age in years without the asterisks and stuff. And then now we have age in days, so that, because years, of course, there's a lot of rounding going on there. Days is much more precise. Team, this is their current rating for stage 3. So I wanted to do something a little bit more in depth, but I can't just go back and get older ratings because there's players that just got picked up this stage, players that just got picked up last stage. Like things have changed. So this is the only data that I have that includes all of them together playing against each other and stuff, but it's not even complete in that way because the stage isn't over. So maybe I'll revisit this video once the stage concludes and see what's changed and whatnot, get a more complete and accurate picture, because it's a small sample size, right? It's only had 4 play days. The 5th play day will be later today as I'm recording this. And then I did a roll for each of them. So I just went through the teams and I chose the one. I had 2 entries, 2 supports, and 1 flex for each team, and like maybe technically that's not strictly the role, and like I mean these roles are a little bit arbitrary anyways, but the one that I thought was the 2 entry players and the 1 flex player and the 2 support players. Interesting to note is that before the season you definitely would have had Kino as support, but he's been a little bit more off, a little bit less on the support recently. He still plays a lot of the smoke on defense, but on an attack he'll be doing like entry stuff. So I just put him on flex, and I put Laxing on support, when in the past it might be different. As Foxy is definitely on support on that team, and so I just put Laxing. A lot of the flank watch players I have just on support because that's just, I don't know, the way the roles panned out. and then there's flex player, and a lot of those are like the sledge buck roll, and then entry is like the Yana, Zofia players. Okay, and then the roll number, 3 is entry, 2 is flex, 1 is support. I mean, I guess you could label this as increasingly aggressive rolls, like entry being the most aggressive roll, support being the least, and I just have that for the sake of to make a chart easier to make. And then I have the number of seasons that they have played in pro play. I don't think there's anyone here in NA that has played in one of the other 3 regions, so it's just NA. And then I think the only players effects is loading that I didn't include last year when it was split into the US division and the Canada division, because like Canada division, it wasn't really tier 1 play. The US division was effectively pro league, and now it's been rectified in that way, so that's not included. If they played it all for the season, even if they got dropped partway through the season, it counts. If they got I think that's pretty much it. Even if they played for in the first year when Xbox One Pro League, I included that, but I don't know if it's 100% accurate. I was pulling this off Wikipedia as well, because there were a couple players that said that just played in like the finals of one of the seasons, so I don't know if there were just several players that got picked up just before the finals. The records aren't terribly accurate back then for Xbox One, so a couple of these could be wrong. I did these by hand, of course, so there could be a few errors, but I tried to double check when applicable. So right, number of Pro League seasons, you have 16 opportunities. There were 11 original Pro League seasons, and for the first 2 years, they were labeled as Year 1, Season 1, 2, 3, Year 2, Season 1, 2, 3, and then after that is Pro League 7 through 11, and then NAL, the US division, stage 1 and 2, so it changed. It was seasons. Now it's like, it's 2020 season, 2021 season, but it's the stage season, interchangeable in a way. So 2 there on top of the original 11 gives 13, and then we are now in NAL 2021 stage 3, so 1, 2, 3, and of course I'm including the current stage, even though it's not complete, but because otherwise some players would have 0. And right, so up to 16. The only player that has played in all of them is Eclipse. I mean, where is he? Yeah, it's surprising that anyone has played in all of them, and there's some other big numbers in here, like Hot and Cold, Laxing, Canadian, Geo, right? They've all played for a very long time in almost all of the seasons. And then over here we have just the number of each thing, and these will be on the charts, but just how many people are 18, how many people were born in which year, how many people were born in each month, if you care, and then the total age of each team. So, okay, and then I have it, things, this is just the same thing as this, but they are ordered differently, so I can put them on the chart. Okay, so let's look at the nice, bright, white charts. Okay, I didn't label them what they are exactly, but it's not hard to tell, and I'll just explain them. So I think I have them all organized from youngest to oldest. So these are just the ages in days, so that it's differentiated, so that there's a lot fewer ties than years. Okay, so Pamazu is the youngest player in the NAL, and is the only one that is 18. Everyone else that was maybe 18 when they got picked up is now at least 19. And then so on and so forth. Super being the oldest, then Prod, Bosco, Geo, Canadian, and then there's a little bit of a drop off, and then you know, it's fairly equivalent progression from there. Okay, and then only one person born in January, only one person born in July, a lot of people born in June. This really doesn't matter, but it's just, I mean, if you are interested in that at all. These are the ages. It is very similar to the year that people were born in, but because we are in September when I'm recording this and going over this, we're only 3/4 of the way through the year, so depending on when people's birthdays are, the rollovers and whatnot, it's slightly different. Like most of the 19s correspond to 2002, but like Pamazu was born after today in like October or something, so he's still 18, right? So again, this isn't terribly interesting, but it's a little like trivia kind of thing. Okay, and then this, actually this is backwards. Let me fix this. Okay, it was oldest to youngest. Now it's youngest to oldest. Okay, so this is where we get into the meat and potatoes a little bit. And again, I think maybe I'll revise this at the end of the season or something, because again, these are like not the most complete of statistics and whatnot. So youngest to oldest, we have ratings for the current stage 3 of the NAL. As you can see, I have a trend line here, and it is going up. So players on average are currently putting up better performances when they're older, but not by much because the trend, the trend line is not very steep. It's just right below 1 and then it's right above 1 at the end. So yeah, definitely some big outliers. I mean, Grixer and Hot and Cold and Vertical are just like way up here, and then a few others are like pretty high, and it just sort of is all over the place, but a slight trend going on there. Again, hopefully it's a little bit more interesting to look at by the end of the season. And then we already looked at this one. This is the role thing, so you can see the player 3s again are entry, 2 are flex, and 1 are support. So as you can see, there are a lot of supports in the older players and a lot of entries in the younger players. But which one? I think I have it a little bit later where I look at each role individually. Yeah, you'll see when I get there. Okay, and then these are the total ages of the teams. So, of course, I just took the number of days each player has been alive, and I just added them together. But since I am excluding Thomas and Young Alec because I couldn't find their actual birthdays, I just took the other 4 players from each team, and then I added them together, and then I multiplied it by 1.25, so it's like an average thing. I think it's pretty close, because maybe it skews Beast Coast a little bit to be old. I'm not sure, because I don't know what his actual age is. I think Thomas is around the average for his team, because Mirage is actually, okay, where there's Benji's here, Dreams here, Loading's here, Nyx is here, so they're all like around in the middle, and I think Thomas is around there, so probably that number's not too terribly off. And I'm unsure for Beast Coast. Astralis is like, it looks like to be the youngest by far, and it makes sense. I mean, they have several really young players. Shuttle and Retro are around the middle-ish, but then DP Fire and Iconic and J90 are quite young. Sonics have some younger player. Kansan's pretty young, and Grixer is kind of young. Rexton and Yeti are getting more around the middle, and then Super, of course, is the oldest player by far, so that brings it up quite a bit. And then Space Station, I mean, you might be surprised to see this, but Skies and Bosco and even Hot and Cold are some of the older players in the league. Like Hot and Cold, Bosco, Skies, yeah, they're 3 of the old, and then even Fultz is like on the younger side, but not all the way down there, and Rampy is around the middle. So it makes sense, but I mean, it might surprise you at first glance. They seem like some youthful guys. TSM, XSET. So the three highest placing teams from last stage are actually the 3 oldest teams, which is a bit interesting. And then from there, you can see what's going on here. Beast Coast and Astralis are sort of struggling right now, and then, I mean, the middle ones are not fairly indicative of anything. But again, we'll have to see if this changes by the end of the season. Now I have the flexes, the supports, and the entries separated from the other roles. So first I have the flexes, and of course, since I only assigned 1 flex to each team and 2 of the other roles, there's more of the other roles, but so youngest to oldest in terms of flex. So there is, a fairly good trend going up. If you ignore, well, I don't know, it's not, there's not that many strict increasing periods. I mean, there's like this one, and this is the only one of 3 things where it keeps going up. So, yeah, these are like fairly high, and then these are like fairly low, so. There's something going on there, I guess. Like J90 is preventing the trend from being sharper, for sure. Then for entries, the same thing. There is a trend going up. And I mean, I don't know. You might think that younger entry players might be more proficient because it's usually thought your reaction time or whatever slows down as you age. But you could also take into consideration the older players generally have more experience, not only playing, but a lot of times playing with their team, playing in this role, and then just doing the job, moving through the map like they're used to having to do this and that, look here and there, clear this, shoot this, whatever. They just generally have more experience, and it has proved that age. Well, it appears that age is beneficial in these two departments, but I mean, I'll reiterate one more time, these are just off of 4 play days, and it could change by the end of the stage. But then when we get to supports, it actually decreases. And of course, it might even be an increasing trend. I'm not, if you took off like super and maybe prod, and if you took off NJR and Kino, because I mean these are really high and they're way at this end. But you can see there's sort of a bit of a bell curve going on here. It's pretty consistent. Fozo's kind of low for it to be the bell curve, but you could see that's going on there. Like maybe, I mean, for whatever reason, like this could be the prime support age. You know, it's hard to say, and it's not like, you know, well, as much as they say age is when it comes to this sort of stuff. For the most part, age is just a number. Like, I mean, a lot of the much older players are doing really, really well. Vertical's killing it this season. Like Eclipse is doing really, really well. You have to take things like this, and they're very experienced, but they're also getting a bit older than a lot of the other players. And if we also, well, we also have to consider a little bit, I mean, these are roles that I think they're fairly accurate, but you also have to consider specific jobs they're doing, and not just like, you know, roles versus job, but also a lot of these players are the IGL, like Super's the IGL for Sonics, and a lot of some teams have like co-IGL situations going on, but Prod, I think, is the IGL for XSET. Canadian, the IGL for Dark Zero. So a lot of the IGLs are sort of over here. And most of the IGLs are on the support role. I think Skies is... I don't know if he's like the man. I don't know what the IGLing situation for Space Station looks like at the moment. I think it's some sort of a split system, but I think Skies certainly is one of the shot callers. And finally, I have the number of seasons played in and versus age, I guess. So, you know, Pamazoo still being the youngest, Super still being the oldest. I mean, and it makes sense for this to go up. Like, you can't even play at pro level when you're below 18. So the older players had a lot more chances to play in pro play, assuming that they started when they were a certain age. They've had more years of their life that they've been 18 plus, so more years that they've been able to play in pro play, where a lot of these players have only been, you know, they're just 19 and, you know, change, so they've only been able to play for a year and change. But then some players have only gotten into Siege recently, but I mean, like Prod's been playing for quite a long time, but he's just now into Pro League. I think Fozo is still like fairly newish, even though being one of the older players. And there's a little bit of a, you know, a little glut here and here as well, and then even, I mean, like here or whatever, little things going on. But you can see the general increase. Eclipse, of course, being the most seasoned player, and of course, this is just looking at Pro League / NAL seasons, however you want to call it, just Tier 1 seasons that they played. But I suppose, I wonder if, I guess I could look at other regions, like, is there anyone else in the world that's played in every because it would have to, the only other one could be in LATAM, right? Or not LATAM, Europe, because LATAM didn't have Pro League until like year 2, and APAC didn't have it until like year 3 or something. So it has to be in Europe. And maybe I think Rafal's been playing for like a really long, or Renshiro maybe, or I mean, all of those old G2 guys have retired and, well, moved on in some way or other. Yeah, Eclipse might be the most, in this specific metric, having played in Tier 1 seasons, might be the most seasoned player in the world, which is cool. I mean, you know, good for him, I guess. And he's killing it this season thus far, and he's done pretty well recently, so maybe he's just only now in his prime. You'll love to see it. So, right, that's what I have for you today. I hopefully will come back with a revised version, and maybe even like consider some other axes, like maybe go in depth on some things I didn't have here, add some things and whatnot. But if nothing else, the ratings will be more fleshed out by the end of the season, and hopefully I'll include that. And I guess, well, you know, if you watch this video and there's any stats that you wanted to see in relation to birthdays and ages and stuff, and it wasn't in here, you know, let me know, and I'll try to include them for the next one. And other than that, I guess that's going to do it for this video.